Good morning, I'm Randy Ruth, and welcome to another edition of Your Pocket Mechanic. I frequently go on the internet and watch different tech tips, as they're called, where people post repair information on cars. Usually, these can be help forums where people who aren't mechanics but, have had a problem with their car can post information to other people who might have questions about something wrong with their car. And something I've seen real recently is somebody will complain that their malfunction indicator lamp, their check engine light is on, and they don't know what to do. The car runs otherwise fine. And I've seen more than once where somebody will suggest, well, put a new gas cap on it and unhook the battery. That'll fix it. Don't do that, okay? Yes, a bad gas cap can turn on a malfunction indicator lamp, but that's not always the cause. In fact, there could be, depending on how new the car is, there could be several hundred reasons the malfunction indicator lamp is on. And a gas cap, yes, could be one of those. Not always. In fact, I wouldn't even say frequently, but it can happen. I mentioned before in a video, anytime you clear code out of a powertrain control module to turn the malfunction indicator lamp off, you erase a lot of pertinent information. If the gas cap was not the problem and you end up having to take the car to a shop to have it fixed, you've erased any pertinent freeze frame information the mechanic could use to help diagnose what really did turn on the malfunction indicator lamp. If you think the gas cap is a problem, you put it on. Don't unhook the battery, because if that does fix it, the light will go out after a while, after several good trips of recognizing that the gas cap is new, if that was the problem. So then the question comes up, how can a gas cap turn on a malfunction indicator lamp? Well, I'm going to explain that to you. Your vehicle puts out a lot of emissions. There's carbon monoxide, there's oxides of nitrogen, there's hydrocarbons, there's a whole host of different emissions your vehicle puts out. One of those emissions is called evaporative emissions. That is the one emission that is produced when the vehicle's not running. All the other ones come out of the tailpipe when the vehicle's running. Evaporative emissions occur when the vehicle is parked. Let me explain how. If you pour a cup of gasoline on the ground, especially when it's warm outside, it evaporates very quickly. That's what makes gasoline such a good fuel for an engine. Its ability to evaporate and atomize so quickly. When gasoline is stored in the fuel tank of your vehicle, it has to vent somehow. Otherwise, while the engine is running and the fuel pump's pulling fuel out of the fuel tank, if it wasn't vented, the fuel tank would collapse from the vacuum. Also, when you go to fill the tank, that air has to escape out of there to make room for the gasoline. That's evaporative emissions. Gasoline also expands and contracts as it gets warm while the vehicle's parked. That air has to go somewhere. Evaporative emissions. Around 1970, auto manufacturers began trying to find a way to trap these emissions. Now, what they did originally was on carburetor-equipped cars and with fuel tanks, they would take a hose from the float bowl and from the fuel tank and put it into a carbon canister where it would sit. And a lot of these cars had a filter on there that had to be replaced every so often. And how often do you think people did that? Very seldom, because it didn't affect the way the vehicle ran. The vehicle would run just fine even without the filter on there. But it is a pollutant. I can remember my dad had an old 58 Chevy pickup that had no evaporative emissions, and the fuel tank was right behind the seat. And when us kids were little, as we were standing up in the front seat when he drove, that tells you how long ago it was, you smelled gas in the vehicle the whole time. There wasn't any evaporative emissions. And my dad used to smoke Lucky Strike cigarettes with the windows up, with us kids in there with all those gas fumes. We didn't know. And hey, I'm alive and well today to talk about it, so it didn't hurt us. But evaporative emissions are very nasty. As cars became newer, those evaporative emissions trapped in the carbon canister, the manufacturers began running another hose to the engine to pull those fumes out and burn it with the rest of the fuel. But often this caused problems because it was getting too much fuel at that time while it was purging it out of the carbon canister. That could cause hard starting and other problems. So with the advent of engine management, when they started putting computers on vehicles, they found ways to purge those fumes into the engine at the right time. That was one of the parts of the engine control module. One of the duties was to purge those evaporative emissions into the engine at the right time. But the systems were still prone to leaks. And, of course, when it leaks, then it's as if it didn't have any evaporative emission control at all. As vehicles developed and became a lot newer, they started finding ways to make the powertrain control module check the system for leaks. And what it would do, it would, every once in a while, it would put a measured amount of air into the fuel system and see how long it stayed. It would put that air in there and then seal the system and see how much leaked out. If too much leaked out, boom, it turned on the malfunction indicator lamp. That could be a leaky hose, it could be a number of things. One of those being the gas cap. And sometimes you hear somebody that would fill up their car and forget to put the gas cap back on, and it would turn on the light. As soon as they put the cap back on and drive a little bit, the light would go back out. And so people started attributing anytime the malfunction indicator lamp come on, it's probably a bad gas cap. Well, no, it's not. Not always. In fact, I wouldn't even say it's real common, but it does happen. So if you suspect that's what's turning your light on and you want to try a gas cap, knock yourself out. It's not an expensive fix, but do not unhook the battery. Do not try to turn that light out. If that was the problem, after several good trips, the light will go out on its own. It'll be like, well, that never happened. But don't unhook the battery. Don't clear the code out. I mentioned before that a lot of parts stores will check your engine, check your system whenever you have a malfunction indicator lamp on, and they may try to sell you a part to fix it. Like if they pull a code saying that it's got a bad, the oxygen sensor is not reading properly, they may try to sell you an oxygen sensor. I wouldn't call that a good service, because just because you pulled a code out doesn't mean that's the component that's bad. That is only the component that reported a problem to the malfunction indicator lamp. It often requires more diagnosis. So it's up to you what you want to try to do, but for goodness sakes, don't put a gas cap on and unhook the battery or try to clear the code out if that wasn't the problem. Put a cap on if you feel like it, drive it around, and the light will go out if that was your problem. So anyway, I want to throw that out there. That's why you see people recommend a bad gas cap could turn on their malfunction indicator lamp. It most certainly can. That doesn't always mean that is your problem. I'm Randy Ruth, and thank you for watching Your Pocket Mechanic.